Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving straight into equipment entrepreneurship and enterprise structuring. We are going to completely flip the script on how you view everyday tools and learn exactly how to transform isolated pieces of hardware into massive wealth-generating enterprises. So, let's get right into it.
Okay, let's kick things off with a simple but honestly incredibly powerful story to set the stage. Picture two women who start out their careers with the exact same asset, an identical sewing machine. They've got the exact same tool, right? Yet their financial futures end up looking drastically different. Why is that? Well, it all comes down to what they built around that machine.
This comparison right here is basically the cornerstone of everything we're discussing today. The first woman used her machine to sew clothes for individual customers. What she did was create income. Now, that's honorable, and sure, it pays the bills, but it's strictly limited to her personal time and energy. The second woman took that exact same sewing machine and built a uniform production business. She trained apprentices, she secured long-term contracts to supply schools and whole organizations. The absolutely crucial lesson here is that equipment alone does not create wealth. The business built around the equipment creates wealth. One created a job, the other created a full-blown enterprise.
And that brings us to our core definition, equipment entrepreneurship. This isn't just about, going out, buying a piece of heavy machinery, and suddenly calling yourself a business owner. Not at all. It's about creating, managing, and actually growing businesses that use equipment to provide products or services. The fundamental shift here is moving away from the ego or pride of simply owning a cool piece of equipment and moving toward the strategy of building a profitable, sustainable, and scalable enterprise around it.
So let's look at how this builds into what we call the equipment opportunity chain. This maps out the exact evolution of a successful business. You start at step 1 with the equipment, but an idle machine, that's just a very expensive paperweight. You have to move to step 2 by wrapping a dedicated service around it. Step 3, you find a customer who desperately needs that exact service. Step 4, that transaction generates revenue. And finally, step 5, you structure that recurring revenue into a fully functioning enterprise. It's a deliberate step-by-step chain reaction of value creation.
Think about how this scales in the real world. A camera doesn't just take pictures. Wrap a service around it, find the customer, and boom, it scales into a full media business. A tractor isn't just a farm vehicle, it's the literal foundation of an agricultural enterprise. A generator scales up to become an energy enterprise. Did you know that businesses that over-leverage themselves by buying expensive equipment without a clear service plan fail at a staggeringly high rate? It's true. The equipment only becomes truly valuable when it successfully bridges that gap from a static tool to a dynamic, revenue-generating service.
Now that we know how the chain works, how do we actually climb the ladder? Well, there are 4 levels of enterprise growth. Level 1 is self-employment. You work alone, and your income depends entirely on your daily sweat. Level 2 is the small business, where you serve more customers and maybe hire some assistants to help carry the load. But level 3, that's where the real magic happens, the enterprise. Here, the business operates through solid systems and processes that go way beyond just the owner's direct involvement. And finally, level 4 is the growth enterprise, where you are actively expanding into new markets, new locations, and new services. The whole goal of this explainer is to push you out of level 1 and accelerate you right up toward level 4.
Now, you might be sitting there wondering, does this actually apply to my specific industry? And the answer is absolutely yes. These opportunity clusters span across essentially every sector you can think of. We're talking construction, welding and manufacturing, agriculture and food production, transport and haulage, solar energy and water systems, creative fields like media and IT, right on down to personal sectors like beauty, healthcare, and facility management. No matter what sector you operate in, this entrepreneurial climb is for you.
But here is the true beauty of this entire framework. There are fundamentally different ways to participate in this equipment economy. You don't have to play the game the exact same way as everyone else. You don't necessarily have to max out your credit cards or take on crushing bank loans to buy heavy machinery just to get your foot in the door. Let's break down these distinct business ownership models. First, you have the classic owner model, where you own and operate the gear yourself. Then there's the service provider model, where you just use equipment to provide the service. But consider the agent model for a second. You literally just connect customers to the people who do own the equipment. Genius, right? Then there's the cooperative model, where a group shares the ownership and use of the equipment. And finally, the partnership model, where multiple individuals jointly operate the business. Basically, you can operate it, you can connect people to it, or you can share it. Let's ground all this theory in reality for a second. Consider this case study of a community agro-processing center. Local farmers were struggling heavily with post-harvest crop losses. I mean, the food was simply rotting before it could even be sold. Now, the traditional mindset would tell each individual farmer to go out, take on individual debt, and buy their own expensive processing equipment. But instead, they used the cooperative model. They banded together, established a shared processing center, and used the exact same equipment to serve multiple farmers. This generated reliable revenue through shared processing fees. The crucial point here is captured perfectly by the source material. It says, not every opportunity requires individual ownership. Partnerships and cooperatives can accelerate growth. Listen, if you take absolutely nothing else away from today, please remember this. Shared systems can completely bypass the massive barrier of high equipment costs. You do not have to carry the entire financial burden all by yourself to build a thriving enterprise. And the results of that shared approach, they speak for themselves. You see increased productivity across the board. You see dramatically reduced waste because the crops are actually processed in time. That leads directly to much higher income for the farmers and ultimately more employment for the wider community, all because they built a lasting enterprise rather than just buying individual tools. It's a compounding win for absolutely everyone involved. All right, it is time to turn the mirror around a bit. The source manual provides a brilliant enterprise readiness assessment, and I want you to actively engage with this right now. You can grab a pen or just keep track in your head. I'm going to ask you 3 foundational questions, and I want you to honestly, and I mean really honestly, rate yourself from 1 to 5 on how ready you truly are for enterprise growth. Ready? Question number 1. Do you truly understand your industry and your target customers? Think about it. A score of 1 means you have a vague idea. A 5 means you know exactly who is buying, what their absolute deepest pain points are, and where the entire industry is heading over the next 5 years. Remember that equipment opportunity chain we just discussed? You simply cannot turn a service into revenue without intimately understanding your customer. So rate yourself 1 to 5. Question number 2 challenges the actual practical mechanics of your plan. Do you know the exact equipment required? And do you understand your specific business model? Are you going to be an owner, an agent connecting people, or maybe part of a cooperative? Look, if you have a fancy machine but no clear model of exactly how it monetizes, you're hovering around a 1 or a 2. Take a second and give yourself a rating on that one. And the final, perhaps most important readiness question. Do you have a clear growth vision for your enterprise? Are you planning to just stay at level 1 self-employment forever? Or do you have a detailed, actionable roadmap to reach a level 4 growth enterprise, expanding into new markets and implementing automated systems? Rate your vision from 1 to 5. And hey, if your scores are a little low right now, that is completely okay. That just means you know exactly where you need to focus your structuring efforts next. Now, to improve those scores, we often need a complete mindset shift. The old thinking dictates that equipment is the business, and I need to own equipment before I can even start. That is a very dangerous trap. The new paradigm, what's called Triple E thinking, shifts to realizing that equipment merely supports the business. It's the customers who actually create the revenue. It's that revenue that sustains the enterprise. And ultimately, structured enterprises are what attract serious investment and funding. Let's bring it all together with our key takeaways. Number 1, equipment is nothing more than a tool for creating value. Number 2, real enterprises are built around genuine market opportunities, not just cool, shiny machinery. Number 3, businesses only transcend self-employment and grow through solid structure and operational systems. And most importantly, lasting wealth and enterprise growth require deliberate organization and planning. I'm going to leave you with this final, somewhat provocative thought to chew on. Now that you know the equipment is just the tool, it's just the starting block, what enterprise are you going to build around it to attract your next round of funding? Because as we've learned today, investors do not just fund machines. They fund structured, scalable enterprises. Think deeply about that and keep structuring for growth. Catch you next time.